It's been 20 years since the deadliest attack on U.S. soil. 2 decades later, CBS News spoke with some of the nation's top national security experts, former CIA directors, and intelligence insiders from that time. They retraced their steps in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. I want to show you a preview of Race Against Time, the CIA, and 9/11.
Lights are blinking red.
The clock was ticking.
The sands of time were running out.
They knew an attack was coming.
They were calling it Armageddon.
America's darkest day.
Catastrophic attacks. History-changing attacks.
But they couldn't stop it.
When they say they're going to come kill you, they're going to come kill you.
Inside the nation's top spy agency, now they tell their story.
Go in, get bin Laden, get the hell out.
Tracy Walder is a former CIA officer and special agent for the FBI. She is one of the many voices who spoke with us for the CBS News Special, Race Against Time, the CIA and 9/11. Tracy, thank you for being here and joining us. You actually tracked Osama bin Laden before 9/11. Tell us how your objectives changed after the attacks.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Lynn. I appreciate it. Before September 11th, I would say the mood and the urgency in the counterterrorism center was just, I think, very normal. It was just a normal part of our job, very sort of 9 to 5. What we did notice leading up to the attacks was sort of the intelligence almost drying up. I guess that was their way of providing a signal for an attack. After the attacks, though, I will say the sense of urgency became very, very great. And we were really working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to try to hold the people responsible that committed this attack.
Tracy, I just want to clarify, what did the intelligence community know ahead of 9/11 about the possibility of an attack?
So that's an interesting question and a very good one. I think it's tough to answer that because the reality is the terrorist is never going to pick up the phone and say, I'm going to strike at this date, at this time, and at this location. That's not what's going to happen. The intelligence that we had was quite vague. It was very much, yes, perhaps an increase in discussion and increase in what we call chatter. However, I don't think we had anything that was extremely specific, and that makes it very, very difficult to predict something like this.
You mentioned the flood of information and the speed at which you were working with after the attacks. Tell us what lessons the intelligence community was forced to learn following 9/11.
I think the biggest lesson that the intelligence community as a whole was forced to learn really was to communicate. I think really some of the difficulty that we saw was because of a lack of communication, a lack of proper communication between really all of the intelligence community. I would say balls were sort of dropped throughout the community as a whole. And really as a result, the terrorists, the hijackers sort of slipped through the cracks. So I would say that is really the biggest takeaway.
So we're remembering Afghanistan, but we're also remembering Iraq right now, because in 2003, then Secretary of State Colin Powell delivered a speech to the UN in which he misused information provided by your team to justify the U.S. invasion in Iraq. What was wrong about those claims, and how did you react?
So my group that I worked with, my particular branch in the Counterterrorism Center, our job was to locate terrorists who were trying to acquire and use weapons of mass destruction to commit attacks really all over the world. So really our focus was actually not Iraq, it was all over the world. And one of the people that we had identified as sort of being the henchmen or the top brass for the acquisition of these weapons of mass destruction was Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. And there was rumors that he had perhaps stayed in Iraq for 3 or 4 days for some medical treatment, but we really had no indication whatsoever that he was working with Saddam Hussein and the Iraqi regime. My group, in order to sort of keep our targets straight, made a chart. It's a lot of analysts make those things. They make them for operations officers such as myself to help keep our locations straight. And Abu Musab al-Zarqawi was at the top of our chart, along with kind of some of his deputies who were trying to acquire weapons of mass destruction destruction throughout the world. That chart was seen by a member of the administration. Zarqawi at that time had been quite a buzzword, and they asked to take the chart. That was not an unusual request. That was a very common request, quite frankly, for intelligence. We didn't think anything of it. However, when Colin Powell gave his speech that really provided the reasoning for invading Iraq, that chart obviously kind of became the spark that lit the fire that was the Iraq War. And so really the title of that chart is what is not what was intended. The title of that chart really was just Zarqawi and his connections. And I believe that the title was changed to Zarqawi's Iraq-linked connections.
Tracy, as we are looking at the past, we're also looking at the present and the future. Tell us, how have threats against this country changed since 9/11, both in terms of foreign and domestic terrorism?
So I think in terms of foreign and domestic terrorism, the threats have changed in that what I see is more sort of what we call Lone Ranger attacks. I would say that those are both foreign and domestic. And we see Lone Ranger ISIS attacks that, to me, become very, very difficult to track. Something like Al-Qaeda, something like September 11th, obviously that's a large logistical lift that requires a lot of money, a lot of planning, a lot of discussion. And so I would say your chances of being able to track something like that might be a little bit higher. A Lone Ranger that's sort of radicalized on the internet, which is really what we're seeing, both foreign and domestically, quite frankly, become very, very difficult to track. I also think in this country, we're sort of at the reverse of, I guess, September 10th, 2001, in that we identify terrorism as something that happens over there, something that a foreign actor is going to come and commit a terrorist attack against us. But what we're seeing now is that there is a rise in domestic terrorism. And I think that is a large concern as well.
All right, Tracy Walder, thank you.
Thank you.